All right, so I have this set up out of the truck. Just wanted to bench test it, also kind of see if we can get it to work. So you can see what it does, how it works. This one I beat with a hammer sometimes, multiple times, and then it would work. But obviously not consistently, so I'm not sure if we're going to get it to work or not. Also, so I have the handy dandy like converter here from 110 to whatever voltage you want. So I have it at 12. Now, keep in mind, this had a very thick wire on it because of the amps that it draws. Now, what I'm going to do is just kind of touch this, not do a whole lot, just touch it. And hopefully it doesn't fry my wire or anything else. You know, if so, then you'll know not to do what I did. Okay, so ground. In the vehicle, there is no ground wire connected to this. That's because, yeah, it's grounded by the engine, if you knew that. There are things called grounding straps that connect the engine to the frame. The battery is connected to the frame. So basically, everything, if you have clean grounds, the frame on the car, any metal on the car connected to the frame without an isolator, like, should be a clean ground. So anyway, with this here on the bench, I need to have a ground. So I have this, alligator clip. All I need to do is ground any part of this, but normally it's grounded where it connects, right here. That's where it connects into the engine through the bolt and everything. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that here. All right, so that's our ground. And then I have it set at 12 volts. It's just not going to cooperate. Here, whole setup. So we have 2 screws on the back side. 2 connections. This connection's smaller wire. This is for the solenoid. When that gets triggered, solenoid kicks over, makes a connection between this terminal and this terminal, which you can see has this big wire connected from the terminal to the starter. That gives the starter the positive side of the equation to have it engage. So this is basically the solenoid's sort of a relay, right? So when this gets triggered, there's a connection there that connects these 2 terminals, and then starter starts. And the reason you do that is because you have this thick, see how thick this cable is? And then the cable going up to the battery is thick because this connection draws a ton of amps. So it just needs a trigger, it's a ton of amps, and you want it to be a short cable so it goes directly to the battery. But you don't want that to be always on, obviously, because the starter would consistently turn. So when you turn a starter, or when you turn the ignition to all the way up, and so 2 clicks and then you're cranking it, if you just hear a click, that would be a relay or the solenoid making this connection, but nothing happening after that, potentially. That's what it could be. So this is the one that has power to it that will connect into here once this is triggered. So I'm going to try to set this up so that works. And to test the theory, this is on. If I do this, nothing happens. If I do this, nothing happens. Because there is no connection between these 2. If I do this, you can see nothing happens. Okay? Currently. But effectively, going directly to this should engage that starter, because we're bypassing this connection and just enabling it, and I see nothing's happening there. So, but I'm going to get this hooked up to here, and then I'll need to hook it up to this as well when I want to basically jumper it over. So I wanted you to see this side. I'm hoping you can see what actually happens in here if it works the way it's supposed to work. But again, this one came out because it doesn't work the way it's supposed to work. So part of this is also testing out how to connect it and make sure that everything's good on this one, so when I get a new one and want to bench test it, I don't screw it up. So that's another part of this little science project here, as well as explaining how everything works. All right, so connection between here and here should click. And let me go grab a wire and do that. All right, so I'm on this side of it, just to show you. If I click this, in theory, I should hear that solenoid kick. And I don't. Interesting. Might not have it. This thing might not have enough juice to kick it over as well. So, All right. I hear nothing. That could be what's going on. Yeah, that's probably what's going on, more likely. Because this thing's doesn't have enough cranking amps to actually turn that thing over. Well, you know what I can do? I can go get a battery and see if that works. All right, so I have this battery it's an ATV battery sitting on the shelf. I just grabbed that. I'm gonna go ahead and use my multimeter. It's got juice, 12 volts. This one's 220 cold cranking amps. Just kind of work our way up and see what happens. Let's do this. I'm going to see if this battery gets the solenoid to click. It's possible that all I was hearing in the truck was the relay clicking. It's very possible. And not actually the solenoid not working. However, that being said, well, this definitely has some more juice, as you can see. So what I'm doing is I'm just touching the bottom peg over here, which gives it direct power. And this wire is hot because it pulls that much. There's a little smoke that came out over here. So the wire is hot. I just want to touch this real quick. So I'm going to do this. That makes that connection. And I have these other alligator clips. And all I want to do is touch the solenoid, see what happens. There we go. Okay. Alright, so here's the deal. Oh, that's why. I'm a dummy. Okay. This is why we do this stuff, right? Just to make sure we understand how things work. So, bottom one rotates it. When you trigger the solenoid, it's a Bendix, I believe. The solenoid actually kicks it out. So this is in like this. There's a flywheel here in the engine that just sits here. The starter only engages to turn the engine over to get it started. So when you crank the key over all the way to the end, it kicks the solenoid. Solenoid kicks and this kicks, right? So the solenoid will kick out the Bendix, which takes this gear and pushes it out this way. What that does is that engages the flywheel that's sitting out here away from that gear. So it kicks out and turns. And then it releases when you let off of the starting part of the key, the cranking part, I should say. When you let off of that, this retracts and the starter disengages. Not a lot of power here, but and you see it's not actually fully engaging. It did that at one time, and that's what it was doing. It would not fully engage, and then it would engage, then it would not fully engage. So that's what I was doing in the truck. is not doing that now. That's tiny cable, so just use that for cool stuff. Alright, so you can see 12 volts to solenoid does that. So kicks it out, and then you have, ooh, super hot.
Super hot.
Wire's hot because it's not thick enough for what I'm doing here. Drawing a lot of amps, but just want to show. So the solenoid's working to kick it out, which is that click that you hear. So when you're in the car and you turn it forward and you hear it click, it's this. Which it takes a lot less power to do that than it does to turn the motor. See, that's barely moving, and that's pulling a lot. This wire's hot. So if your battery's a little bit low, you'll hear that noise because it kicks out, but it doesn't turn over this big motor here to turn over the engine. So if you don't have enough juice in your battery, you'll hear a click. There's your click. This is the Bendix. Pretty sure it's the Bendix. I'll have to look it up. It's from like 30 something years ago that I remember being taught that. Anyway, I've never actually seen it outside the vehicle. Pretty cool. So that kicks that, and then once it kicks that out, there must be something that turns this over. It must engage something else to give power to this. Yeah, we'll try it. We'll see what happens. Now, most likely, what happens in here, and I'm not 100% sure, is most likely when this engages, it like basically there's a trigger in there to tell the lower half of this, the motor part, to spin. So it kicks out without, you don't want it to spin while it's kicking out. You want it to kick out, engage the flywheel, and then turn. When this thing goes out, it basically completes a circuit to tell the motor to rotate. But in order to know that, I need to put another connection here. So let me go get another thicker wire and then put some power to here and see what happens. But I think that's how it works. It makes sense to me. We're just figuring it out. Alright, so I have this wire. Probably, I'm just going to go from the battery separately to this. Yep, there you go. So if you just go to the bottom one, you see it spins. It just spins. By the way, you notice that's spinning faster? It's because the cable I'm using is thicker, so it could pull more amps. So it is spinning faster based on that. Still smoking a little bit, but that's why that's spinning faster. So the thickness of the cable is very important, especially on a starter or anything that draws a lot of amps. Very, very important in a house, whatever. So we have our ground connected from here to here. We have power going directly to this top lug. This top lug is there. I was saying earlier that when you push the solenoid button over here, or when you enable the solenoid, that connects the circuit. That's almost true. What it does is it engages the solenoid, which kicks this forward. When this kicks forward, there's a point where it triggers the connection between this lug and the lug below to spin the motor, which then spins the engine, which is what's in the car. So this is a motor. An engine has cylinders and stuff. A motor is electric. I'm not getting into all that, but basically this is an electric motor that spins the engine over to get it started. So just hitting this doesn't engage these two. The reason that is, this has to get spit out to connect basically in teeth with the flywheel or the flex plate So it can't be spinning when it does that. So it kicks straight out, engages the flywheel, or gets inside there's a mesh with the flywheel, put it that way. It meshes with the flywheel, and as it kicks out here, there's a circuit that connects these two lugs in the back to spin the motor. So kicks out, as soon as it kicks out all the way, it spins the motor. So if you just hear a click, usually that's the Bendix kicking out, but maybe the engine doesn't, or maybe the motor doesn't have enough power to turn. So you see how quickly that kicks out. It doesn't take as much power to do this, again. So if you hear a click but it doesn't crank over, it may just be a low battery. And that's why, because this doesn't draw as much as this does. Obviously, you see the smoke coming from drawing that. So that's the thing there. Ironically, this is the one I took out because it's got issues, and it's kind of working every time I hit it. But the other part of this is the motor itself might not be kicking over as much as it should in the cars because the windings or whatever are weak. So, but now you can see how that works. All right, and let me see if I can get you another angle so that you see everything that I'm doing. So you can see ground going here, big cable from here to the battery, the top lug, and then I have my white thicker cable that I'm going to touch the lower terminal, the smaller terminal, which is the solenoid. See it spin. See it kick out. If this is off, the top one, and I do this, it'll still kick out, but no spin. That's the solenoid kicking that Bendix out. Alright. And then I'm going to put that back on. Now when I have the top connected, the other thing I could do is, as this is off, I can go directly to the bottom one. Well, you can't see it spin. I didn't do the best job there. Let's try that. Bottom one. So I'm just hitting the bottom one and that spins. And ooh, it is burning up this wire because a lot of amperage. That's why it's a really thick cable going in the battery again. So I'm just tapping it to make sure I don't burn anything up. Mainly myself. Alright, so connecting that. So now you know what bottom lug spins, small lug shoots the Bendix out. This engages the solenoid to shoot that Bendix out. So now we're going to just engage the small one with this connected to the battery, and as it kicks out, once it's all the way fully engaged, it spins. So that's both of those circuits working together. Alright, now just because it does this on the bench doesn't mean it's going to turn over the engine in the car. And that's probably what's going on with this starter. It's probably weak and it can't turn over the engine itself. Every once in a while it will. Hit it a few times and sometimes it'll work, sometimes it won't. So this doesn't mean that everything's good. It's a way to show on a small scale how this all works. So now we know. We do know that each function of it works, but maybe not all the time. And it may just be weak. So I'm going to take this, swap it out, spend some money, get a whole new assembly, not screw around with just, because sometimes you could just replace the solenoid. I'm just going to get a whole new thing. Not going to worry about it. I'm sure it's going to be twice as much money as I want to spend, but this thing's got to start. So I'm going to go up to the store and get that and put it in later. Oh, so the reason I wanted to show you this and show you the different, fiddling around is because, you can kind of work your way through this stuff and figure out how it works. And, it's one thing to read it online or to kind of understand. Like, I understand how it works. I've always understood that it shoots out and it spins. But to be able to test each circuit and to see what actually is going on, not real complicated to do, and when you have it out, spend a little bit of time to do that instead of just swapping out parts. It also allows you to test things and just have a better understanding of how everything goes together, everything works, and you can apply that kind of knowledge to something else. Listen, nobody knows it all. I didn't understand how this worked until I actually worked through completing those circuits and seeing, and I just wanted you to see that. You can kind of fumble around and go, oh, that's how it works. Now I know. So I know moving forward how this works. I know how to troubleshoot it because I understand the different noises it makes. One's spinning, one's not. When it's in the car, it's only going to shoot out and spin. That's the only way it'll work when it's all connected the right way. But we do know the different components that make it up. Don't be afraid of doing that stuff. Don't be afraid of messing around. Obviously, this was one that was in the vehicle that I know works sometimes and sometimes it didn't. So I wasn't afraid of screwing it up. That's the best way to learn. Even if you do screw it up, it's still the best way to learn. All right, let's go get a new one. All right, so I'm back. New starter. They had to order it, but anyway, got it same day. It's the evening though, and I'm not going to try to put this in now. I'll do it tomorrow, hopefully. Best laid plans. That's the plan, is to get this thing going tomorrow. But I do want to bench test this real quick so you can see. Same setup. I'm not going to show you that again. Basically the same setup that we had before. I'm going to go ahead and ground this. Case is grounded. I'm going to alligator to the large one here. Alright, now all I should have to do is touch this one over here, and we'll get this to shoot out and do what it's supposed to do. Okay, we know it functions. I'm not going to do anything else crazy here. I'm going to disconnect it. So at least now, before I put it all in and something doesn't work, I know that it should work. There have been some times when you put a brand new part on, it happens. Brand new part on, and then you chase your tail because something's not working, and of course it's not the new part, but sometimes it happens to be the new part. So I've tested it, works. Thanks for watching. Hopefully this helped. If nothing else, maybe it was entertaining. Either way, that's fine. See you later.